I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG Podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Happy Jacks RPG Podcast, Season 30, Episode 4. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Joey.
I'm Adam.
And in today's episode, we have Gaz from the Netherlands asks about players taking notes during intense RPG moments. Weasel Creature from California has opinions about playing an existing IPs. This one's like a response to a previous discussion we had. And then John in Idaho is either playing with a telepath or a cheater, which I'm very excited to talk about that one. And all right, if you would like to contribute a question or story to our show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And you can also find our past podcasts and streams all on our website at happyjacks.org. All right. And we have the cutest couple ever tonight. I'm very excited you're both here. Yay! I feel like I haven't seen you in a really long time.
Fair happened. Or it's currently happening. I have no life.
Also, our Saturday night home game stopped happening.
Yes.
And because
fair
happened.
happened.
So,
For those of you who don't know, fair just encompasses your entire life for about 2.5 months, and nothing else exists.
Yes.
Or if you're married to somebody who is at fair, it encompasses your life for that period of time as well.
Accurate.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it was really fun for like about 2 years now. We were doing every Saturday night game here at Kimmy's. This was before the new studio.
Yeah.
And just like gaming out and playing with like some of our favorite people, like Dave and Jason Mills and Nick, and like we were just like, yay, happy fun time Saturday night. And and then
AKA, we're desperate for human interaction.
yes.
All around the campfire. Distance, outdoors.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was actually super fun though. Like
It was,
S'more night
yeah.
was my favorite.
S'more night was great. Yeah.
night.
S'more night was way more successful and enjoyable than KFC log night.
Yes.
That was rough. That was a rough night.
Yeah.
Yes, if you didn't know, you can actually buy a firewood log that is flavored like KFC.
Yeah.
And so we
Smell flavored.
flavored.
We didn't actually taste the logs.
Yes.
No.
Right.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
But not as bad as it could have been.
yeah, it could be worse. You could actually eat KFC. No.
No, that's not worse.
No.
Yeah.
It's terrible for you. It's worse for you, but so
Yes.
good.
Mhm.
Right. Yes.
Oh.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'd have our Saturday night campfires and game and drink and and try to forget that the world was falling apart around us.
But somebody has to do fair.
Yeah.
Somebody has to make money for a wedding coming up. I don't know. I don't know who.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, Dave.
All right. Announcements. We're still working on a new studio. The sound is so much better this week from last week, right? Like, yeah. Okay. So thank you for hanging in there for our first 3 episodes of season 30 where the sound was kind of rough. And by rough, I mean echoey and very metallic sounding. Like I sounded like a robot sometimes because of this weird sound delay. It was fascinating, but terrible. But still, if it sounds, I've had people sending me emails saying, hey, when I'm listening to this on this device, it sounds like this, and back and forth. So please, if you have feedback, please send it to us, good or bad, so that we can continue to kind of dial things in and make it perfect. Because I will make it perfect. I'm a perfectionist. I will not stop.
She won't stop.
I won't stop. Also, we need emails, please. So we have enough for like the next few shows, but I want to really build up like a good collection. So please send in emails. If someone at your game who doesn't listen to Happy Jacks has like this question or problem, have them write in or write in for them and pretend to be them and just don't tell them. I won't question it. It'll be fine.
Look, and you can also send a telegraph
No.
You could send a note by paper post.
No.
You could send a message by horseman.
If I get to keep the horse, yes.
Okay, all right. Just
Or
kidding.
if the horseman is super cute.
Right, yeah.
Also, yes.
Yes. Send emails.
Yeah.
Ask us questions. We're very intelligent and we're lovely, delightful people.
And send us horror stories because we love hearing about the misfortune of others.
Accurate. We do love that very, very much.
Makes us feel better about ourselves. And we're gamers, so we always need to feel better about ourselves.
Well, more than that,
Well-
we're performers.
Yes.
Sorry, Joey.
I was going to say
I
it.
called
didn't-
you out.
I didn't have to.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything. Everything?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're
I think
Yeah,
so.
let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Mailbag number 1. Who wants to read that one?
I'll read
Good.
this one.
Okay.
Why not? Dear Happy Jackers, longtime listener, sometimes writer, and recent joiner on the Discord, I thought I'd write in with a question so Kimmy doesn't run out of emails now that she's running the show.
Woohoo! You read my mind.
Ah. First
Or a
off,
telegraph.
love the new look. Love the new studio look.
Oh, I thought we were talking about like me.
Both can be true.
Like
I'm going to assume they meant both.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Post-COVID Kimmy's.
Shows potential, and even though the sound quality isn't what you want it to be, it's already better than a lot of other podcasts, so keep up the good work. Second time for my question about note keeping, or more specific note keeping during intense RP situations. I have a lot of opinions about this. One of your hosts, I think it was Stork, said that if his character is not in the room, he doesn't take notes because it reduces metagame knowledge when he's recalling information and just reduces metagaming in general.
It was Stork.
Yeah.
Again, I have a lot of opinions. I am a player in a D&D 5e game that we have bi-weekly around a table, and we encountered the following situation. The cleric of their group was separated from the rest of the party in another room, and together with the DM, they had a pretty intense RP situation. She was holding the children of a noble hostage and was trying to negotiate our safe exit and get information about the important MacGuffin. I like this cleric style.
Yeah.
That was my editorial, not what's in the email.
I have cleric concerns. Okay.
Right?
By good RP and good rolls, she gets a lot of information with names, locations, and all kinds of other info, a minor info dump. In-game, the rest of the party has no idea what's going on in that room, just that she has it under control. Out of game, the player who controls the cleric isn't taking notes because she is being absorbed into the RP and immersing herself into her character. The rest of the players are writing furiously because, well, important information is being given by the GM. Now, everybody has the notes except the player who was actually in the scene, because it's not really immersive asking, how do you spell that name? Or could you repeat that last sentence again? I can't write that fast when you're in an intense hostage situation. After the situation was over, in-game, we discussed it so all of our notes were synced up again, but there might also be situations where the info is personal to the character, so syncing up notes are not as easy. How would you handle note-keeping in intense RP situations when in-game your character is not there? As a spectator, but also as the one who is having the intense situation. Would you take notes, give those notes to the RP player, and then erase the notes from your own? Do you make separate notes with what your character knows versus what your player... oh my god, I can't read today. Do you make separate notes with what your character knows and what is player knowledge? Or would you put the responsibility of note-taking to the RP player, let them ask all the info after the scene is over? Looking forward to where the show is going, and good luck. Greetings, Gaz, the Drunken Master. P.S. Put my pin in the world map up in the count of the Netherlands, now to 3.
Nice.
We love the Netherlands. P.P.S. Thank you for the advice and support in the Discord when I sought it out. Love and hugs to everyone who else needs and wants it.
Aww.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Gaz.
Yeah, we do have this great. When you join the Discord, you can opt in and out of different sections, and there's a section that like people can get emotional support or rant about things, and people who aren't interested don't even know it's there. And then the people who are like can opt in, and it's great. Like I've used it a couple times myself when I'm upset about something or frustrated, and it's just people are super supportive and awesome. Yeah, this is a really good question.
It is. Yeah.
So here's my take on it. Stork, you're wrong. End of sentence. No, I'm kidding. Kind of. First of all, why aren't you taking notes, Stork? I'm sorry, I'm going to address it to the Stork, apparently. But also to the writer in the email. You should always be taking notes. Always, always, always be taking notes. You can section it off. You can box it if you don't want it to be knowledge your character has. But always be taking notes, especially if someone's having an intense RP moment. They're not going to remember anything that happened in that conversation. They are so in character, hopefully, that it's just going to kind of fly by. Be a pal. Take notes for them. Please. If you're the DM and you need them to have this information, if you're using this as an info dump, maybe have all the information written out. You can slide to the player afterwards if you're doing it in a major, intense RP section. Because they're going to be in it to win it, RP-wise. They're not going to remember. They're not going to stop and take notes. If you can, after the scene is over, that's great. Usually, if you're playing at a table, maybe you take a 5, potty break after an intense RP session, and you can jot stuff down. But be a pal. Take notes. What else are you doing? Looking at your player's manual, playing with Stop stacking your dice and take notes.
I'm gonna disagree. I know.
For those who didn't see my face because you're only listening to audio, I also plan to disagree. So yeah, go ahead.
Both Adam and I made our eyes
It's okay.
Scrunchy faces.
You both can be wrong. I'm very excited to see what's happening.
So I am that super annoying player who almost never takes notes of any kind. Generally, slowly during the course of a campaign, my character sheet's margins get full of random information. But that's mostly names of people. I think in that moment, I feel like it's important for everybody at the table to also be enjoying it. And there are people who absolutely engage with something by writing about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's great. I am not one of those people. If I start writing things down, whatever is happening here, my ADHD kicks in and I have no idea what's happening anymore. So as a player, if I'm in a really RP heavy moment, I'm just going to go for it. I'm not writing anything down. I don't expect anyone else to write anything down. It's one of those things where after that scene is over, as a GM especially, when we have a RP heavy scene and there's important information, I make sure we have a pause. Be like, okay, guys, everyone write stuff down because you're going to remember the important stuff in that moment. Yeah. And also, if it's a super emotional moment, it's very realistic for your character not to have made mental notes of absolutely every factoid that was dropped. Because in emotional states, our memory kind of gets a little wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
So as a GM, if you're running that, you have that moment, just let everybody enjoy it. Because there's awesome moments where two people have a thing and everyone else at the table is just just enjoying it, your favorite soap opera or whatever. Let them have that. Don't be write that down. If you happen to have one of those players, Samantha is a great example of this. Samantha can be completely engaged in a game and write fantastic, amazing, engaging notes that you want to read later.
Right.
I don't
know how she does it.
My
but
brain doesn't
ability.
comprehend that in any way.
Yeah, because when I first played with her, I thought she did what I usually do, which I take kind of a shorthand, sexy goblin ? Small things that I go back later and then refill full sentences. Okay, those are my notes. But no, I was sitting next to her just writing full on sentences in the middle of a scene. How are you doing this?
Yeah.
You're I love it.
And stays so engaged and
Most annoying of all, the most beautiful handwriting ever.
Beautiful,
right?
Stunning.
It's really annoying. Yeah, Sam, you're annoying.
We love you.
Yeah, we do love you. No, I actually so I have lots of thoughts about this, and one of them is it is such a gift when you have that player who, if you have a player in your group who takes those kind of amazing notes and enjoys it and does it because that's how they like to play, it is a gift. And please, take care of them, hand them notes with here's how you actually spell it. And, I don't know, just appreciate that and make sure that you're properly showing the gratitude that it comes from that, because it really does help, especially if you're one of those like me or like Kimmy who is just no, I'm in the scene and I don't want to be writing notes because I want to be so engaged in the role play that it has all of my attention. And I love those moments where I forget to even look at my character sheet. Because I'm so engaged in the conversation that we have going on.
Yeah.
So I'm really a big fan of let yourself get lost in that moment. But I do agree with what both of you were kind of getting at is like at the table, whether you're the GM or other players at the table, take some time to like step back after one of those scenes and say, okay, did we get all the information that we need? Or like, GM hand that player some notes so that they can jot down what happened, what they learned, without having to disengage from that moment in the play. So but also, so the thought that I wanted to talk about with spectators is I've gotten to the point, and part of this is because my gaming circle is so damn good. Like, I play with some of the best players in the world, and so I have a lot of times when I'm a spectator, when my character is not in the scene, I actually want to be listening. I'm usually so engrossed in the other characters' scenes that takes more of my attention than when I'm in the scene myself. But yeah, my notes generally, and this is how I am with a lot of things, is I tend to take a similar kind of shorthand, where like, most of my notes consist of the name of the character, the NPC that we just met, and then just a brief thing to like told us where the goblin camp was, and that's usually it. And in my mind works in such a way that that's enough for me to have all the recall that I need.
Yeah.
And most of the time I will look at that note and I'll see that and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember he had an eye patch on and he had a gray frazzled beard and he was wearing a dirty apron, and and like just that one note will bring back all of the other details to me because I just need that memory jog. But I joke about, I don't have a photographic memory. I have a sketchbook memory.
Yeah.
So it's like I have a really clear picture of what I think it sort of looked like.
Yeah.
And I can remember that really well, but I can't remember like all the details,
Mhm.
but I can remember enough to get me back in the mood.
Yeah. For me, especially those really immersive, dramatic moments are the parts I usually remember most clearly as a
Yeah.
player. Like, it's like when the GM is just describing stuff, sometimes like I have some trouble remembering some of that.
Mhm.
But like if I'm actively participating in a scene later on, I can almost recall like everything about it.
Yeah.
Like if someone's like, oh, I said this, and they're like, oh yeah, and then so and so did this, and da da da, and what
Mhm.
and it like pops back in.
Yeah.
So I have a very similar. It's very chronological.
Yeah.
Like someone says the first thing that happened in that scene, and then boom, the rest of the scene suddenly is there in my brain again.
I guess my point of view, or my experience, why would you want to put major clues in a superly charged emotional RPG scene in the first place?
It's a really good point.
You're not gonna want to put major exposition for what's happening in Winterfell at the Red Wedding.
Right.
No one's gonna be paying attention to the information you're giving them. People are dying.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: people are dying. Yeah, I know.
Right.
But
yeah.
don't. But if they do, for example, if you've been playing this campaign and they're in this really intense RP moment and they mention Baron von McGuffin, and you remember in your notes as a spectator, oh, that's someone we're looking for, maybe jot it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe jot some, because the person in the scene is going to be able to jot it down.
Yeah.
And just, again, shorthand notes, so you can go back and reference them and
Mhm.
ask them for more information later or compare notes to other people. But that way it doesn't all completely get lost.
Yeah.
But also, DM, maybe don't put the clue by fours in the intense emotional RP moments so that everybody can be in the scene.
Right. Or if you do, don't be a dick. Like, remind them later.
Right.
Print it out.
Yeah.
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 Print it out.
Print it out.
Handouts. We love
And
handouts.
also, I think, one of the things that I think people a lot of times get caught up in thinking about role-playing games, and you think like there's this way that it has to be done. And if you have inefficiency, then you're not having a perfect game. And I think that's a very dangerous way to go, because some of the most fun you'll have is doing that recap with everybody and having those moments of like, oh my God, that's right, she did say that.
Yeah.
And and having yourselves go through that conversation of the recall. And as a GM who doesn't write things down or do prep, that's super helpful for me too,
Right.
because it gets me to remember like, oh yeah, that's right. She did say that. I'm going to make that hurt. That's when I take notes. But
Right.
yeah, but I think it's, we get caught up in thinking like, oh, well, if we don't have good notes, we didn't have we're not going to know what happened in the game. But also it's okay to like forget what happened and completely retcon it without even knowing it. Because in the end, it's all just a game. And if you're having fun with your friends, then it doesn't really matter if you took notes or not. So it's the memories that are going to be way more important.
Right. It's collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if,
Yeah.
unless the GM, if you're doing like, I can see like in some situations, like if you're doing like an investigation game where it does matter a little bit more. And as a GM, there are moments where you like drop a thing and you don't want to like constantly remind them. But I would make sure if there's a scene where there's, like I said earlier, if there's a scene where there's a lot of role play and there was a clue, like hopefully you didn't plan it that way.
Right. Yeah.
And if you did, just be like, all right, that scene's over. We're going to pause. I want you to like write down anything that you thought was important.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge,
Right?
nudge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with my students, it's like, there's a quiz on Friday and it's Monday. And then slowly as you get closer to Friday, you're like, tomorrow's Friday. Do your work and study.
Yeah. Right. And GM pro tip, if they bring it up during the recap and that's the first time you realize that it actually like made a huge connection, or they bring up one of their crazy weird conspiracy theories that you never in a million years would have imagined, but you realize it's actually perfect, pretend you had it planned the whole time.
Yeah.
They will not ask, they will not know, they will not care if they do find out. Like,
and they will feel brilliant.
They will feel brilliant, and they will think you're brilliant.
Yes.
So, yeah. But so sometimes not taking notes is your friend. Sorry, Joey, for that violence that I just did to your psyche.
But we still do really appreciate all the note takers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one thing I'm going to say about that, like we love the note takers, but please make sure that you're not like putting pressure on that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't want it to be the group project where like they're doing all the work.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, okay, you do this every week. Go. And you're like, it's on my job to remember all the important stuff. If I don't, we're SOL. Like, not cool. So
advice from a note taker, offer them things for taking notes, so it'll maybe inspire other people to take notes. Like bennies or advantage or anything.
Inspiration.
Anything.
Cupcake.
Pizza.
Beer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're the same person. Joey and Kimmy, I mean, not pizza and beer, but I mean,
both are good.
but, yeah.
Both go great together.
Right? I love all four.
We love you too. All right.
Sure.
Mailbag
Weasel-
number 2.
Weasel Creature?
Yeah.
I kind of want to read for Weasel Creature.
Do it.
Hello, my name is Weasel Creature and I'm evil. No, I'm just kidding. That's not right. But, hi, Weasel. We love you.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that. Slancha, Kimmy and the Jackers. I've been catching up on the show, and back in December, something came up, and an important point was missed. As I'm listening to the episodes backwards, okay, maybe he is a little evil, it wasn't later addressed either, at least to my knowledge. The crew was talking about playing in existing settings and why for some settings it was preferred not to, but others didn't seem so bad. And it was boiled down near the end by Stork when he said, paraphrased, what's different in playing in the Marvel Universe versus the Traveler Universe? RPGs...
This is like the disagree with Stork episode.
I didn't want to say that up front, but yeah.
I mean...
He was almost here tonight, so that would have been very interesting.
I'm sure I'll get an earful of it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. RPG settings are very different from comic settings and even more different than a movie setting. In an RPG, yes, there's characters placed and a storied history, but then it stops. The story is then made by those at the table. Eberron, Iron Kingdoms, Traveler, etc. have settings designed to have the story continued by the character. Yes, some of them do advance their settings timeline, so playing an earlier timeline could have similar issues, but usually a game starts where their story ends. Playing in the Star Wars universe, well, the main story has been told. We know how it ends. So unless the GM is okay with the total alteration of the story by Vader dying on Bespin, then you can't have the players meet the main characters and then they'll be in the shadows of the already told story. Yes, this can be alleviated by playing in less known timelines after Jedi, before New Hope, where some of those characters still exist, but there really isn't much of an active story to interfere with. Keeping rocking, Weasel Creature. P.S. Again, look twice for motorcycles.
Yes.
I
I think this is a really good point that I don't think we've ever covered. We've had the IP discussion many times.
And I've missed all of them, so I'm very excited about this.
Welcome. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's huge. Like, these are worlds designed to be played in
Yeah.
versus other IPs that are designed to be comic books or movies or
Right.
whatever else. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think that's correct, and this is a really good observation. Is that well, and each of these examples are a little different, but like playing in an RPG story in its universe, it is designed to be open-ended for the most part. There are a few notable examples that I would bring up, like Necessary Evil, which actually, like, the campaign sort of plays you through a story that sort of sets up the start of the campaign world, and also, like, if you play all the way through it, pretty much ends it. So it's designed to sort of like learn the setting, play the setting, and end the setting if you want to, but you can also just stretch it out forever. But with Star Wars, I think that's one of the reasons the more successful spin-offs have been in either things that are just very finitely telling one person's story, or it's moving on to, or it's putting it in places where we're not dependent on the main story. Which with Star Wars has all its own problems, which I'm sure we could go on ad nauseum about. But the Marvel universe, I think, is very different because set up already in Marvel as well as DC and in most of the comic book worlds, you already have the establishment of parallel universe theory, and it's in all of them. So you can absolutely play a superhero game in these established universes, and you can have things completely different, and it still feels authentic and real and important to the story. Like none of us get to decide what's going to happen in the 616 comic books. But as much as they want to try to pretend that's one story and one timeline, they should really check with like everybody who's ever written it, because none of them agree. But the cinematic universe is a lot more compact and clear, so you can, so that's already a lot more limiting, but you can just change one thing about the cinematic universe and all of a sudden you've got a whole new setup. So,
we were talking in the Discord about the new Marvel role-playing game that's coming out.
Yeah, I've been seeing some up and down things about it.
Me too. And there's, when you said, because in the Marvel universe, the like main canon universe is Universe 616. There's a whole nerdy story about that, but we don't have to go into. But for the new role-playing game, it's a high-low system. So the very best roll you can get is 616.
Oh.
And I can't tell if I love that more than anything or if I just hate it.
Well, as a longtime diehard Marvel fan for over years now,
sorry, what was that?
Years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I will just say it's multiple decades. I would say that is essentially, quintessentially Marvel, is to both love it and hate it at the same time.
Yes.
And, it's, like I just recently started reading like the new iteration of X-Men, and that was my jam, was X-Men. That's what I broke my, my kitty nerd teeth on. And the new iteration is like, well, they came up with a way to bring back everyone you ever loved and switch them up however you really want to, and then also made it so that there are zero stakes in the world whatsoever. And it's like, wow, they like put together some really amazing, wonderful teams, and now nothing matters. And that's such a Marvel thing to do, of like, oh, wouldn't it be cute if the best roll you can get is a 6, a 1, and a 6, because isn't it the best universe? But it's really not. So but yeah, it's anyway. I have a real I have real strong opinions on this, and I've listened to the podcast and like screaming at my at my phone, wanting to, like, wishing that I could be in the studio to have this argument with everybody. But seriously, I think it is important to realize that we like these universes because we love the stories, we love the characters, and however you want to, like, jump yourself in there and play, as long as everybody at the table agrees that they're cool with that, then go for it. And
I agree. I've done a couple different IP games, and each one kind of took a different approach. I was in a Game of Thrones game that we agreed at the very beginning. We are going to play at the beginning of the books up to a certain point, and then we can start screwing with canon. Like, if we wanted to go and save Robb Stark for the Red Wedding, I can't talk today,
spoiler,
folks.
people die.
I've already spoiled it once. That's why I picked that one.
Yeah.
It's my linchpin for this episode. Leave me alone.
Okay.
Then we could try to save him, or we could try to stop, other things from happening in King's Landing. And that was really interesting. And we got to kind of screw around and make our own canon after we started messing with the established canon.
Yeah.
Similar thing with Jason Spider-Verse game.
Yeah.
We took our own spin on it. We created our own canon and OC characters. And what's really great about that is we were able to take some of the more problematic characters from the Marvel Universe and twist them so they weren't so problematic, or change some casting so it wasn't so problematic. And so you can do that too. You can always improve the things you love about an IP in your own game and make it more catered to what you want to do. I don't see any problem with it, and as long as everybody's having fun, that's the important thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, we totally agree. Yeah, we actually during lockdown played for about a year, every single week in a Star Wars game, and we set it right after The Force Awakens. Is that right?
No, right before The Force Awakens, or during The Force Awakens.
I think it was during The Force Awakens. Yeah. And so we kind of set it like right in the middle of that, and just kind of like Rise of Skywalker had not started yet, had not come out yet, so we had no idea what was going to happen. God,
Neither did they.
Accurate.
For real. But we kind of played in that world of the Resistance versus the First Order, and like we never really ran into the main characters, but we had stories that were sort of adjacent to that, and it was fine. There's no need to run into those main characters, and I think either Stu or Stork or both have talked about that before, how that's kind of how they like it in IPs, is like you never actually run into those characters, you're playing in a story around them.
Yeah.
And I think there's still plenty of stories that can be told in most of those.
I mean, The Mandalorian has shown us you don't need to tell a story about the Skywalkers to
Right?
tell a good Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, like, and we've talked about it before, but Star Wars is so big. It doesn't feel super big all the time, because we, and especially in the trilogy, it's like we see the same people, and especially with now all the other stories are now like all still tied back in. But that's what I kind of love when we started with the new movies, is we're like, oh, a totally new story. There's a whole universe.
Yeah.
Like, the Empire is so big that it took years for people to ever find out the Emperor died.
Right.
Like, if you read all the canon and everything, like that's how big this place is. You could have a huge adventure, another whole rebel force on the other side of, the galaxy, that this rebel force that knows the Skywalkers has no idea exists.
Yeah.
There's like so many options.
Yeah.
And so do what the movies didn't, and move away from the same family tree.
Right? Yeah.
All the branches don't have to be connected.
Yeah, yeah. I love those characters, but I don't need to have them in every story that I play around with in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think this is this is it's a good discussion that I don't think will ever really end, and and I think there's a lot to be said about it, because I mean, in some ways this is one of the ultimate gaming debates. Is do you use an established story, such as a module or an IP or whatever, or do you make up your own thing whole cloth from scratch?
Right.
And both can be good. And I've played games with both that were amazing in both ways, and I've played games with both that were really lackluster or unpleasing. And it's what I have learned in my years of gaming is
I
that
get you some water. You seem to be choking a
Yeah,
lot.
this
but I have learned that it doesn't matter so much the game you're playing. It matters the people you're playing it with.
Yeah.
And and if you can find a group of people, or if you're fortunate enough like me that you've actually found multiple circles of people who enjoy the same kind of stories that you do, just go and let yourself loose and have fun with them.
Yeah.
And if you're in an IP and somebody brings in a character, the GM brings in a character and you're like, oh, that's not really how I imagined them, let it go. Let yourself get excited about the idea that somebody has a different personality or different perception of it.
Yeah.
So I'm always a fan of let yourself enjoy the moment that you're in, even if it kind of gets at your craw a little bit.
Yeah. But I love the point that RPG settings were made to play in. So even
Yeah.
though there's a lot of canon with them a lot of times, especially when you start getting into like World of Darkness and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there's tons there.
Oh
But
my God, yeah.
it's made to be played with.
Right.
So again, like that's a great point. So Stork was wrong. That's the main takeaway of
Right,
that,
yeah.
that email.
Yeah, episode 4. Stork was wrong.
We love you, Stork. You're coming
We
back next
do.
week. So yeah. All right. Mailbag 3. I guess I'm reading this one.
It's on you.
John in Idaho is playing with a telepath or a cheater. I have been playing RPGs for far longer than I care to think about, usually being the GM, but also doing my fair share of sitting on the other side of the GM screen. In that time, I've seen many different attempts to win at role-playing. I will admit that in my younger years, I too have done my fair share of it. Most often it seems to be cheating at dice rolls or the character miraculous having 2 or 3 18s and nothing below a 14. Well, not technically cheating, the DM doesn't seem to be excluded. While I'm mostly good with fudging dice rolls, excessive railroading and GMPCs can kill the enjoyment of a game just as easily as anything else. Hear, hear.
Hmm.
Recently, however, I have encountered something that I have not experienced before. The DM's wife seems to have an uncanny ability to know exactly where to go for the next clue or plot point. I am not sure whether this is something she's doing on her own by reading the module, it happens to be Curse of Strahd, or if the GM is using her to move the game along. Dun dun dun! That's not in the email.
But
He is a new GM, but we are pretty decent role players and have a good grasp of the rules, so have been helping him out if he asks. I have been hesitant to bring this up because so far it is not bad enough to ruin the game, and I sometimes suffer from small bouts of anxiety, not to mention it is quite literally the only game in our very small town. It also feels like we are being railroaded, but not by the GM, by another player. John in Idaho. Yikes. So my first question, is this player, not you, John, but this player who's coming up with all the clues, is it their first game?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because if it's the GM's first time GMing and they've brought in their partner to play the game, it can be tempting as a new player to want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as a new GM to want to make sure you've got an ace in the hole.
Yeah.
To make sure you don't you're not misleading the characters or you're,
And I've been that ace in the hole.
yeah.
One of my best friend, when he first started running games for our group,
Yeah.
He had Julie GM before, and he knew I was an experienced role player. None of the other players had played any kind of D&D before, so I was kind of his assistant GM, where he would kind of like brief me on like the rundown of what the story was. Like it was okay. I didn't care about spoilers at that point, but I want to make sure everybody else is having a good time too. So like if we got stuck, I could be like, hey, you have a +1 in mechanics. Do you want to take a look and see? Like I could give hints in character, that way it kind of helped move the story along.
Right.
But yeah, this is rough. This is like
And-
once or twice,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
maybe, but like every time.
And also like combined with the only game in a small town.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah. You don't want to alienate the only people that will play with you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so I totally get that. And and like I mentioned earlier, I'm very fortunate. I have a large Venn diagram like array of gaming circles that I get to game with. So but I have been in those situations where there's only one game in town and the something about it is not very fun, but you got to play because there's nothing else, there's no other options. So in those cases, yeah, you got to weigh a little bit of that social that social balance of do I take the risk of pissing these people off and and making it seem like I'm not grateful or I'm not into it, the game, or I don't want to game with them, or like I'm accusing them, or do I let it kind of ruin my fun? And I'm the kind of person that I would generally go towards the latter, and I would personally, if I were in this situation, I would probably just be like, okay, well, here we go again. I don't need to know where we're going to go next because she's going to have the right answer. So, and I would probably try to work it into my character somehow of like, hey, Elzebub, you always have the right answer. Where do we go next?
Right.
Wow, it's like you see the future. So you can, I mean, it might be a way to just sort of play with it and just acknowledge, okay, this is going to happen. So why not let yourself have fun with it?
Yeah.
Um,
So Adam's suggesting the passive aggressive route.
Right?
I guess if you want to frame it that way, yes, I'm suggesting the passive aggressive route. I was raised a Protestant in the middle America, so that is the only way. Yeah. This is the way.
Good luck, Joey.
Yeah.
Oh, you would know nothing about passive aggressiveness, would
Oh,
you?
not at all. Anyway, my recommendation would be talk to the other players. See if they're noticing the same thing. See if do they know this couple more, better than you do, or do they know? Have they role played them before, where they're both on the player's side? Like, is this something that happens all the time? Try to get a little more information, and see if it is an actual issue, and see if anybody else is having a similar problem with it, and then maybe it'll be less scary if you can kind of go to the DM as a group, like, hey, no offense, all good, just something we've noticed, like, what's up? It's always easier when you have a crowd behind you, so I would check in with them and see what's going on there, and see if they're feeling the same thing you are.
Yeah, and I also, I'd recommend, I'll tell you one sure way to lose at this, and to make sure that not only does the game break up, but most of the party breaks up, and most of you never talk to each other socially again. The sure way to do that is to confront the GM and accuse him of using his wife to ruin the fun of the game.
Yeah.
That will absolutely, You will not win that conversation. You will lose just by starting that conversation, and it's not worth it, honestly. It would be better to just not be friends with them anymore. You might as well skip the argument and the hard feelings and just ghost them. Again, the passive aggressive Midwest approach. But seriously, I mean, let's say they're doing this and they know that they're doing it. They're probably doing it as a reason to support each other. And so you want to kind of come out on the side of this of going like, well, this is, we want you to feel supported and we want you both to have fun. If you're doing this because you think we are expecting it of you or needing it from you to have, to make the game fun, it's actually not working, you know? And and I think, and then, I think the other thing is to say if they're, if they don't realize they're doing this, then it's not something that you can really directly address, in my opinion. Doing so is going to cause hurt feelings from one or both of them, and it's going to, if they're not doing it intentionally, then it's a favoritism that's happening because of the couple situation, and to me that's it is such a fine line playing with your significant other. And and like Joey and I have played together a lot, and I think we've formed a pretty good balance. But one thing,
met in a game.
We met in a game, yeah. But interestingly enough, that was the very last time that we had characters that liked each other.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. Our Star Wars game.
Our Star Wars game. That's the only other time. But that's just because my, lovable lug is just like devoted to him, and he can just ignore me, and it doesn't matter.
Wow. I'm gonna throw my character into the bus, and me with him.
And yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But seriously, like most of our games that we've played since then, we've usually been at odds or we've been indifferent towards each other.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways it's a reaction to the fear that we're going to become that couple that like, oh, they game together and they're so obviously like favoring each other, especially because a lot of times I'm running a game, and so I'm desperately trying to not show Joey's character any favoritism,
right?
So that I don't feel like the person, I don't come off like the person in this story.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about intent is really important.
Yeah,
like it doesn't sound from this that this is a her wanting to win situation.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they both have good intent. They're trying to either participate and not be drag down the party, or to like make sure the GMing is good and that everybody's getting to the next place they want to be.
Yeah.
So definitely come at it from knowing that that's their intent.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a situation where you need to like confront anybody. You might want to bring it up and have a conversation.
Yeah.
I would also see, like, I don't know where you are in Cursive Strahd. If you're pretty far along, like maybe just write it out.
Yeah.
Because you say it's not ruining the game. It's probably super annoying. I get that.
Yeah.
But just
also, Cursive Strahd is not the most intricately woven story with lots of twists that you can't expect.
Accurate.
And sometimes maybe you do want that compass always pointing north in Cursive Strahd.
Yeah.
As someone who's currently playing in a Cursive Strahd game, which I love. I love the game and I love our players. Sometimes it's like,
same.
Well, what do we do now?
Yeah. In Strahd, it's very much like that. And then, like, and Jameson found out with what was it, the Winter Frost Maiden. He tried to run that, and after a few sessions, he was like, you know what? This is just like, this goes nowhere. I have no idea what to do next. So, and I think many times with the module, you're used to that. It's either railroad the players or completely ignore the module.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like modules are actually a great way for new players or new GMs to learn how to GM.
Maybe they do teach you a lot about pacing and what details are important to incorporate. It's really easy if you're a new GM without some sort of guidance to plan too much of one thing and not
Yeah,
enough
that's
of
true.
another.
Yeah, not to mention all the monster stat blocks. You have
Yeah.
to worry about going to the monster manual and like
Mhm.
writing encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would personally just say a new GM shouldn't run D&D, but that's always my opinion. But yeah, if you're close to the end, or if you're nearing the end, let them write it out.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself, play around with it a little bit, maybe a little less passive aggressively than Adam suggested. Wow, you always know the answer. Like they're gonna pick up on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just write it out and then offer to GM the next game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you're running a module and she still has all the answers, then that can be another conversation. You're like,
Yeah.
well,
She's
I feel like
probably
you're
reading the module.
Yeah, you're googling this or buying the module, and
Yeah.
that's not okay.
Yeah. And and honestly, like, the one thing that I would do is I would say, however you're going to address it, I would try to address it with her, not with him. And for a couple of reasons. One is, if you're, especially with women in gaming, it is the oldest, nastiest feeling in the world to be like singled out by all the guys that, oh, you're the girl who's ruined the game.
Yeah.
Right. And I guarantee you almost every female role player has heard that before. Right.
And also,
yeah.
doubling down on that, absolutely. It's the worst when you're there with someone that people perceive as being like your keeper.
Yeah.
And then they address their problems with you with your keeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
It's,
you don't have to go to my husband to handle me.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
come talk to me like a person, please.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your issue isn't with him. Your issue is with her and the way she's playing. And whether she's been asked to play this way, or this is just her natural way of playing, or whether this is what she considers fun, it's her decision, and it's something that anyway, address it with her. It's have an adult conversation with her, and you could say things like, hey, you always seem to like know where to go next. Are you reading the module, or like, is he feeding you secrets? Like, can we get the secrets? Like bring her into the system, bring her into the story, and make her feel like she is one with you guys as the players, as the team. He'll be fine.
Yeah. I would actually approach it, definitely talk to her, but I would just, don't even bring up, like, are you reading the module? Is your husband giving you the info? Just be like, hey, in these scenes, it seems like you come up with the answers a lot, which is great. But sometimes it can feel like I'm getting left out as a character because I don't get to try and come up with the answer too.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you're still addressing the problem without the accusations.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that really is the problem. Like, if she read the module, but you all still got to contribute to whatever the
Right.
solution is, that wouldn't matter at all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So address it that way. Be like,
Yeah.
just give us all kind of a little bit more of a chance. It's so great
Right.
that you're so good at this, but like, just if we could all share it a little more, or just give us a little more time to
Yeah.
figure it out, that might be the best way to do it.
That just really like flipped something in my mind. Yeah, I mean, think about this the other way and like look at it empathetically from her perspective. She may actually just be that damn smart. And she might be that kind of person who just instantly figures out where this is going and knows what to do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she might not even be reading the module or getting information. She's just figuring it out.
Right.
And so you can approach it in that way of like, it seems like you always have the answer. And I feel like sometimes, I don't have enough, I'm not figuring it out that quickly, and I'm not having enough time for my character to sort of puzzle it out. Can you toss us, toss me a couple of, toss me a couple of clues maybe, and let me,
A little more time.
Yeah, give my character a little time. Give me a little time to have my character also figure something out, and and just kind of, engage her in that way, and start with the assumption that maybe this is actually a completely innocent thing, and it just seems weird to you.
Yeah.
Um,
One of
yeah.
the things it might also be is she might just be really good at reading her husband.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I've had situations where, like Sam and I, he doesn't play very often,
Mm-hmm.
but when he plays games and he'll say something and I'll look at him and I'll be like, this character's lying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it has nothing to do with anything. Like, it's totally metagaming knowledge, but like,
Uh-huh.
I just know him well enough to read him and be like, that's your tell. So it may be something where when the GM says something that's really important, he has a little thing he does, and his wife just is like, oh, that must be important.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's also a very
Very
common
good
thing.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with basically what everybody's saying at this point. Like, approach her. And again, I hadn't even thought about that, and which is
Yeah,
weird as
it
being
is.
someone who's been called an insufferable know-it-all more than once. Yeah, it could just be innocent. It could just be she doesn't even realize what she's doing. She's like, oh, I know the answer. It's me. Pick me. I know.
Yeah.
As 3 Hermione Grangers around a table, we think we understand that.
So yeah, I would approach it from that angle. I think that's a perfect way to approach it. And
Yeah.
then if maybe she'll realize, oh, I know the answer. I'm gonna hold my tongue. I'm gonna count to 15 before I say anything. I'm gonna sit on my hand and just wait.
Yeah.
I know I'm right. That's enough, right?
Yeah. It's pronounced
It's
role-playing
not.
game.
We have to say
I know,
it. They have to know.
They
I
have
know
to
the
know that
answer.
we
I know. That's why I sent a message to the GM like, this is it, right? Like I got it. I get a gold star.
Randomly
Yeah.
tweet, I know the answer right now, and everyone's going to see this tweet later and know I know the answer, even though I don't say it.
Yeah.
Check the timestamp.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's true, and and honestly, that's that kind of personality. A lot of us are drawn to gaming.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's no reward for knowing all the answers in real life. There's only punishment and shame.
That's why I became a teacher.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so true. Yeah.
You just threw yourself under the
I
bus.
did. Actually, it was mostly for summer breaks and very predictable hours because I wanted my weekends free to do fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, as a teacher, I will never be called in to work on weekends.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I quit fair anyway.
Oh,
It's okay. I still have my weekends free.
God, I miss that 3 months off of teacher schedule. Oh, it's so great.
Except you don't get paid. That's
Yeah.
the one bad thing.
Well, I was at a university position, so my paycheck was spread over the 12 months.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's like it was kind of like I still got paid.
All right.
Ah,
Did we wrap up that?
I think so. I think we're good.
I think we've answered all questions, and no one could possibly have anything else to say about these issues. So.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for season 30, episode 4. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Joey.
And I'm Adam.
Please remember to send us emails with topics and stories and good stories and bad stories and all the things. And I think that's mostly everything. You can find everything at happyjacks.org. We are going to leave you with a very special song this afternoon. As you know, the Southern California Renaissance Fair is happening right now, which is actually part of the origin story of Happy Jacks. Like, this is
true.
how Happy Jacks started. We were a bunch of Ren Fair workers. Actually, we were all singers on a stage, and we would hang out between our shows and talk about role-playing games. And we had a recording studio for our music, and we were like, maybe we should record a podcast. So many of us still do fair. I no longer do fair. I like air-conditioned weekends. But Joey does fair still with Stu's band, the Poxy Boggarts. And so this is a song. Do you want to tell us about it?
Sure. So I was pressured to write a song. And by pressured, I mean I was told to write a song. And, you know, sometimes inspiration just hits you. And the internet was full of inspiration. And I saw a meme. It cracked me up and decided to write an entire song about it. And I really, really am proud of it. It's my first song I ever wrote. And I managed to fit iambic pentameter, the words, not actually iambic pentameter, into a lyric.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's a lot. I'm a lot. And this song reflects that.
Little bit of a warning. This is the Poxy Boggarts, the band performs in like the naughty stage at fair. So this song is a body song. There's no bad words in it.
No. Bad
But-
words are easy.
Yeah, bad words are easy. They're not cute or funny. There's double entendre. It's a naughty subject matter. If you played it for a little kid, they wouldn't get it. But just FYI.
It's about sex.
And you can find this. It's called "Give That Wench a Sonnet." Wench, like wench, and it's by Joey and performed by the Poxy Boggers. And you can find more information at poxyboggarts.com. Actually, you can't because the website's terrible because Stu hasn't done anything with it. But if you search for the Poxy Boggards, POXYBOGGARDS on Spotify or anywhere else, you can find all their many years of music.
Many. I think 20. This is gonna be Bogfest 26
Yeah, I think so.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And if you're in Southern California, you can come to Alasta Brewing Company in Irwindale, Covina, somewhere.
Azusa, I think.
Azusa, somewhere, east of LA. But Alasta Brewing Company in Southern California, and you can come tomorrow night to Bogfest and hear the band perform
For free.
For
Saturday,
free.
April 23rd. I'll try and get this
Oh,
episode
yeah,
out
that's
tonight.
right. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Get it out tonight, Kimmy. Tonight.
Sorry.
Yeah.
8 p.m. Alasta Brewery. We'd love to have you out there.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, then you can catch them at fair or online or whatever.
Absolutely.
Or come next year.
Next year. All right. I think we're done. Enjoy
think
the
so.
song. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.